But Tolu had not come for wealth or power, she had come for the truth. And the truth, as it turned out, was far darker than she had imagined. That night, as the household slept, Chief Oleniyi called for Tolu. His voice was weak, but there was something urgent in his tone. Mama Duro sat by his side, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and sorrow. When Tolu entered the room, Chief Oleniyi looked at her as if he had been waiting for her all along. Mama Duro stiffened at her presence but said nothing. The chief's voice was barely a whisper as he began to speak. "I've made mistakes, terrible mistakes," he began, his eyes clouded with regret. "I built my life on lies, and now, as I lay dying, the truth must come out." Tolu listened, her heart pounding in her chest. "My children, the ones you see here, they are not mine." Tolu's eyes widened. She glanced at Mama Duro, whose face had turned to stone. The revelation hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. The chief continued, his words slow and deliberate, as if each one cost him a piece of his soul. "Mama Duro, she's been having an affair from the beginning of our marriage. For years, I thought Sigan, Yemi, and Sarah were my blood, but they are not. Their real father was my younger brother, Jerry." Tolu gasped. Uncle Jerry. The man who had been so eager to secure his position in the family was the biological father of the chief's children. "I didn't find out until much later," the chief went on. "When I discovered the truth, I was broken. I wanted to leave her, to expose her betrayal, but I couldn't. Too much was at stake. My reputation, my legacy, it all depended on keeping the secret." Mama Duro's hands trembled, but she said nothing. The weight of her own guilt had kept her silent for years. The chief then turned his gaze to Tolu, his eyes softening. "And you are my daughter. The only one." Tolu's breath caught in her throat. She had grown up with nothing, believing herself to be an orphan. Now, she was hearing that she was the only legitimate heir to one of the most powerful families in the region. "Your mother, Odejoke," the chief whispered, "was the only woman I ever truly loved. But I was a coward. I let her go because I was too afraid of what people would say. I paid for her silence, sent her away, and never looked back. But now, I regret it all." Tolu's mind raced. She was the chief's only legitimate child, but what did that mean for her? "There are people who will not want this secret to come out," the chief warned, his voice growing weaker. "Jerry, he's dangerous. He's always been jealous of me, always wanted what I had. And now, if he finds out that you are my true heir, he will stop at nothing to take it all for himself." Tolu felt a chill run down her spine. Uncle Jerry had already shown his disdain for her, but now she realized just how dangerous he truly was. If he discovered that she was the key to the chief's fortune, her life could be at risk. The next morning, as the family gathered for the reading of the will, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Uncle Jerry's eyes darted toward Tolu, suspicion creeping into his gaze. He had sensed something was wrong, but he didn't know the full extent of the truth. Barrister Ogundil began to read the will, and as he reached the final part, the room grew silent. "To my one true heir, my daughter, Tolu Adejoke Oleniyi, I leave the entirety of my estate and assets." The room exploded into chaos. Sigan and Yemi shouted in disbelief, demanding answers. Uncle Jerry's face turned pale, his hands clenched into fists. But it was Mama Duro who spoke first. "It's true," she whispered, her voice broken. "She is his only true child." The revelation sent shockwaves through the room. Uncle Jerry's face twisted with rage. He had spent years scheming, believing his children would inherit the chief's empire, but now everything was crumbling around him. He stood, his voice cold and venomous. "This isn't over," he hissed, before storming out of the room. Tolu watched him go, her heart pounding in her chest. She She knew that Uncle Jerry would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. She was in more danger than ever. The night after the will was read, the mansion was filled with an uneasy silence. But beneath the quiet, darkness brewed. Uncle Jerry and Mama Duro, both consumed by desperation and greed, knew that the only way to secure the fortune for themselves was to remove the one obstacle standing in their way, Tolu. Chief Oleniyi's death had come mere hours after his confession. With his final breath, he had whispered a warning to Tolu, "Be careful, my child. They will stop at nothing." As the chief's body was prepared for burial, Tolu felt the weight of his words pressing down on her. She could sense the danger around her, but she couldn't have imagined the lengths Uncle Jerry and Mama Duro were willing to go. That night, while the rest of the family grieved, or pretended to, Uncle Jerry and Mama Duro met in secret. Their plan was simple: Tolu had to die. "If we don't act now, she will take everything," Jerry hissed. "We've come too far to let some girl ruin it all." Mama Duro, her face pale and gaunt, nodded in agreement. She had betrayed her husband and raised children who were not his out of love for longtime boyfriend Jerry. But the truth was out now, and all she could think of was securing a future for her own children, Sigan, Yemi, and Sarah. "She can't leave," Mama Duro whispered. "If she does, we'll lose everything." They hired a man to do the job, a trusted henchman of Uncle Jerry's. He was to poison Tolu's food that night and make it look like a natural death. It was a foolproof plan, or so they thought. But Tolu was not as alone as they believed. Ever since Chief Oleniyi had revealed the truth, Barrister Ogondio had been quietly watching over her, suspecting that someone might try to harm the chief's only legitimate heir. That night, the barrister noticed something strange as the cook brought Tolu's dinner to her room. After a discreet investigation, Barrister Ogondio found traces of poison in Tolu's food. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Ogondio contacted the police without Tolu's knowledge. By the time Uncle Jerry's henchman returned to confirm that Tolu was dead, the authorities were waiting. Uncle Jerry and Mama Duro were caught red-handed. As the police arrested them, the full extent of their plan unraveled. Jerry tried to deny everything, but it was too late. His greed had been his downfall. "You think you can take what's mine?" he spat at Tolu as the police dragged him away. "This isn't over." Mama Duro, her face ashen, had no words. The once proud matriarch of the Oleniyi family had lost everything: her husband, her children's inheritance, and now her freedom. With Uncle Jerry and Mama Duro behind bars, the danger had passed. But Tolu was left with the immense burden of her father's estate. The wealth and power that had torn the family apart was now hers to control. And yet, Tolu did not let the greed consume her. Despite everything that had happened, she could not ignore the fact that Sigan, Yemi, and Sarah, though not her father's biological children, were still her family in some way. They had grown up under the same roof, shared the same struggles, and faced the same loss. Tolu made a bold decision. She chose to share the estate with her step-siblings, ensuring that each of them had a portion of the wealth that they had once believed was rightfully theirs. "This is not about revenge," Tolu said softly to Barrister Ogondia. "It's about doing what's right. My father's legacy is not just about money, it's about family, even a broken one like ours." Tolu's generosity brought a sense of peace to the fractured family. Sigan, Yemi, and Sarah, who had once viewed her as an intruder, now saw her as the glue that held them together. In the end, it wasn't wealth or power that saved the family, it was Tolu's kindness and wisdom. But even as she settled into her new role as the head of the Oleniyi estate, Tolu's life was far from over. A few months after the dust had settled, she met a man named Kihind, a kind and compassionate lawyer who had been helping Barrister Ogondio with the estate's legal matters. Kihind admired Tolu's strength and her ability to remain humble despite her newfound wealth. Their relationship blossomed quickly. Kihind had seen the worst of humanity in his legal work, but in Tolu, he found hope. She was different from the wealthy clients he was used to, humble, grounded, and full of compassion. As time passed, their bond grew stronger. Kihind proposed to Tolu in the very garden where they had first met, and she accepted with a heart full of love and gratitude. For the first time in her life, Tolu felt truly at peace. Their wedding was a simple yet beautiful affair, attended by only close friends and family. Tolu had no need for extravagance. She had learned the true value of life, love, kindness, and the strength to forgive. As Tolu and Kihind began their life together, she vowed to use her father's wealth not for personal gain, but to uplift the less fortunate, just as her mother, Odejok, had taught her. The lessons of her journey were clear: power is fleeting, but integrity lasts forever. Wealth may come and go, but the true legacy is the love and kindness we leave behind. Tolu's life was a testament to the power of resilience, forgiveness, and the importance of family, even when that family is broken. She had faced betrayal, greed, and danger, but she had emerged stronger and more compassionate. And as she stood beside her husband, watching the sun set on the horizon, she knew that her story had only just begun.